Hey everybody, Paul from Avalon here. Welcome to this video where I'm going to show you step by step how to prepare your personal tax return quickly and for free. We're going to start with the process of setting up a login for Wealthsimple Tax, which is my favorite tax software, and it also helps that it's free. I'll go through each step in detail for filing a reasonably straightforward tax return. Then at the end, I'll explain exactly how to record your self-employment income and expenses. It's helpful to watch it all in order from start to finish, but I've also included chapters that you can see down below if you want to skip around. Okay, enough preamble from me. Let's get to it. So our very first step is to go to wealthsimple.com/tax, and then we're going to click Get Started. From there, we can enter in our email and choose a password, and then we can sign up to Wealthsimple Tax. If you want, you can choose Send Me Helpful News and Account Info, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to click Sign Up. So there we go. We've signed up and we're logged in, and our next step is to choose the year that we want to file. In this case, I'm going to choose 2021 because I know I have tax slips available for this year. If you're filing a 2022 tax return, don't worry, the process is exactly the same, but I'm going to go ahead and start 2021. Now it's going to present you with the option of using their 3-step tax wizard or skipping to your return. Either way works just fine. I recommend using the 3 steps first, and then it will take you to your tax return and you can complete the rest of it. If you wanted to just manually input everything, you can go ahead and skip to your return. So let's click Get Started, and we're going to follow these 3 steps. First step is to just enter some details about you. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So I've filled it out. I've got my first and last name, my social insurance number, my date of birth. And then what's really important here is enter in which province you lived in on December 31st of that tax year. So if you move throughout the year, you want to choose wherever you lived on this date, and the same for your marital status. If it changed throughout the year, just choose whatever it was on December 31st of the tax year and click Next. Next, we can use our CRA My Account to actually import a whole bunch of information into our tax return. It does save us a bit of time and can eliminate some errors, so I highly recommend setting up and registering for a CRA My Account if you don't already have one. If you're not sure how to do that, you can check the description below this video for a link to an article that explains how to set up your CRA account. So you can also just click register for one and it'll take you through the steps. I'm going to go ahead and connect with CRA My Account and import some of my tax information. I've clearly read these terms and conditions, and I'm going to go ahead and click Agree. It will then open up another window and then send you to this page where you can sign into your My CRA account. And there's a couple of ways to sign in. Option 1 is using a sign-in partner. If you've set it up with this way, it means you've just log in with your online banking or a credit union account. There'll be a list of sign-in partners available there. Or if you've set up a username and password, you can use option 2. I actually have option 1, the sign-in partner. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it's going to give me a list of those options. And for me, it's Coast Capital. So that's what I'm going to choose. But if you had CIBC or one of these other financial institutions, you could just choose that. So I'll enter my username and password and I'll click login, and it's going to take me to the next stage here. So after I've punched in my login information, it's going to confirm that I'm importing information for whichever tax year I'm importing it for, and my social insurance number that's sitting under here. So I'll just click Next once I've had a look at those and confirm that they're right. It'll take us through the authorization process. Our authorization is successful. We can close this window, and now we can import whatever information it's brought in. So we have a T4 and a T5 for me, for example. If you had more, it would show up with a bunch more things. You can manually enter things by unchecking them here and then entering them manually. I'm just going to leave them all checked and click Add to Return. Next, we have a set of questions that it's going to ask us to make sure that we report all of our income and claim all the potential deductions that are available to us. You could skip this and just kind of go through the process manually, but I do like this wizard. It really helps to make sure that you do claim all the deductions possible. So I'm going to click Continue here. First question is what our employment status was. So I was employed. If you were self-employed or you had business income, you could choose this, and that's going to help you to report your self-employment income. In this video, we're going to start with a simplified version And then at the end of the video, I'll show you how to enter self-employment income as well. So if that's you, you can always skip to that section of this video, or you can watch through the whole thing and see how you set up your tax return, enter all your information, and then enter your self-employment information at the end of this video. If you were a student or retired or unemployed, you can check those off as well. So I'm just going to leave it as I was employed and click next. If you had children or dependents, you can choose that, and it's going to help you enter information about your children or dependents. If you owned a home, it will ask you questions of whether you sold it or if it was your first time buying a home to help you make sure you report home sale or claim the home buyer's amount. If you had medical expenses, select that. If you made donations, select that as well. I'm going to go ahead and choose medical and donations because I find that's really common and I do want to show how that works. Don't worry if you have children or dependents or if you owned a home, you can click those and it's pretty straightforward. It'll take you through those steps, no problem. It's found 9 credits and deductions that I might want to add. So I can go ahead and scan through this list and check off any that might apply to me. You can also see the real name of the tax credit or deduction down below. And if you need to, you can always just Google employment expenses and work from home, donations and gifts, and so on. So yes, I donated to charity. I do want to claim that. Medical expenses, yes. This was a 2021 return, so it's talking about working from home due to COVID-19. I'm going to skip that. That doesn't apply to me anyway. For this Canadian workers benefit, if you were employed but didn't earn a lot of income, say under $23,000, you can apply for this Canadian workers benefit, and it's actually a refundable tax credit where you can get some taxes back even if you didn't pay them. So it's a great one if your income is on the lower side. I'm going to leave it as unchecked, but it is a really nice one to choose if it applies to you. If you had union or professional dues, you can tick this off. My company paid for mine, so I'm not going to choose that one. If you qualify for the disability amount, you can select that. Or if you donated to a political party, choose that. I'm going to scroll down because I definitely had RRSP contributions, but I didn't have a digital news subscription. So this would be like if you paid for the Globe and Mail and you viewed your news online and paid for it. There's a small amount you can get as a tax credit here. I'm not going to check that, but I will go ahead and confirm that I have everything I want, and I'll click Add to Return. Don't worry if you miss something here, you can always add it later on. Okay, our questionnaire is done, and now we can go and actually complete our return. So I'll click Continue. So our language, I'm going to say English. Is this return for a deceased person? Man, I hope not. Let's click No. If you have a net file access code, it's on your notice of assessment for the previous year. It's not mandatory, but it is handy if you're talking to CRA and need to confirm your identity. I'm going to leave it blank because it really isn't all that important for me right now. From there, I'll enter in my Canadian mailing address. If you don't have a Canadian mailing address, you can't actually use this software. So we'll just go ahead and enter mine. And you can enter in your home telephone number, but it's not required. Next up, we're going to tell the program about where we live some more. So where did we live in December 31st at the end of the tax year? We already entered that in. Mine is British Columbia. If you moved and your province or territory that you lived in changed in the year, you can enter the date that it changed. I'm not going to bother because mine didn't. Yes, my home address is the same as my mailing. Yes, I currently still live in British Columbia. This would be like if you moved subsequent to the end of the tax year. Did you reside within Nisga'a lands on December 31st, 2021? I did not, so I'm going to click No. And then lastly, did you become a resident of Canada for tax purposes in 2021? No, I always have been, so I'm going to click No. Moving on, we have you and your family. So I've told the program that I was living common law at the end of 2021. That's true. So I do need to add a bit more information about my spouse. You can choose to prepare your returns together on here, and I highly recommend that. If you and your spouse file your returns together, I would click yes. I'm going to say no for demonstration purposes. Did your marital status change? Nope, mine didn't. And do I have any dependents? No. If I did, you just enter some information about your dependents. It's pretty straightforward. And you can claim things like childcare expenses if you have dependents like that. A bit of miscellaneous information. So first up, we've got, did you own or hold specified foreign property? So if you have specified foreign property with a cost or a market value of over 100,000 in the year, you have to choose yes. And then you'll have to file this T1135 form. And specified foreign property is a whole bunch of things, but most commonly it's foreign investments, like even stocks in the US stock market, like AT&T, for example. If you had over 100,000 Canadian in that, you would have to file this T1135. Or if you had an investment property in the United States, for example, worth over 100,000, you would also choose yes, and you would enter that information on the T1135. I don't. I'm going to click no. Did you sell your principal residence in 2021? If you did, you'd have to enter a little bit of information, like the date you sold it and the amount you sold it for and some things like that. You could click yes, and then it would allow you to enter that information later on in the return. I'm going to say no because I didn't. If you're filing this with the CRA for the first time, click yes. I am not. Are you a Canadian citizen? Yes, I am. If you want, you can choose to provide your information to Elections Canada. I like this. I'm going to go ahead and do that so they can contact me all they want. Actually, I didn't even enter my real address, so that they wouldn't get that to me. Are you a person registered under the Indian Act? No, I'm not. And were you confined to prison for a period of 90 days or more? No, it was only 83 days. So no, I'm just kidding. I was not. All right. So the next couple of questions are just about your relationship with the CRA, kind of. Yes, I do have a CRA My Account already. Yes, I am already registered for online mail. If you're not, you can say, yep, sign me up. It's great, actually. You can access your information online. You can get notified when CRA sends you something in the mail, but electronically. So you just log into your CRA My Account, download the PDF, and you don't have to deal with recycling paper with your social insurance number on it, things like that. So yes, and I'm already signed up for me, but I recommend, yes, sign up for this if you aren't already. Next, we have a couple of options. One we've already done, and that's the CRA autofill my return. If you didn't follow the wizard, you would be able to just download your tax information from CRA again. If it's been a while since you have downloaded your tax information and you think that CRA might have received some more tax slips, you can check again and go through that process again. If you had a bunch of crypto trades throughout the year, you can actually import your crypto information with this program called Coinly. I've never used it, but I heard it's pretty slick and really helps minimize the work for tons and tons of crypto trades. So nothing for me to do here right now. I'm going to carry on with manage your tax forms. And this is a really important section because it's really where we're entering the bulk of the information about our earnings and about our deductions. With this search form, we can add a whole bunch of other forms. We can use it to search for things like, say we had employment expenses, or if we had other types of deductions that we know we want to report, we can just search for them, or we can scroll down and choose them from this big, long list. However, because we used that wizard at the start, Wealthsimple has already provided a whole bunch of forms for us to fill out based on the answers we gave it. So first up, spouse or common law partner. If my spouse has her own login to Wealthsimple Tax, we can link our returns and file them together. In this case, I'm not going to do that because this is just an example, but I do need to enter some information about my partner. So I'm going to type that in now. You will also need to enter some information about your partner's income. So it's really helpful if you're not filing your returns together, you will need to at least have access to your partner's tax return. So for me, I'm just going to make some stuff up. I'm going to enter just a generic 60,000 as net income. I'm going to say no, there was no UCCB, RDSP, no repayments, no income repayments for RDSP. If you're not sure what any of this is, just click here and you'll get a little bit more information on what it stands for. So there we go. That's it. 60,000 in net income, a bunch of zeros, and no gains from mortgage foreclosures. This is pretty typical. If you did have these things, you would probably know about it. Universal child care benefits, you can enter that here. We've not reported any children. So, I mean, it's possible that my spouse could have that. So that doesn't seem so silly. Keep scrolling down. We've got some tax situations. Men, I sure hope not here. I'm going to click no. I'm not even going to read that. No disability. Who will claim the sales tax credit? Let's say that my partner can have that. That'd be like, if you had lower income than I think I have here, you could potentially receive some GST, HST credit throughout the year. Was your partner self-employed? I'm going to say no. And if you can't claim the amount for your partner here, tick this off. And the little question mark helps. It just says you should check this box if you did not support your partner or you'll claim deductible alimony. No, I didn't support my partner, and I also didn't claim deductible alimony, so I'm going to check that off. Did you live together for all of 2021? Yes, we did. If we had our returns linked, we might have some tax credits listed below that Shauna may or may not be able to use, and I could transfer those credits by choosing yes here. In this case, again, just for an example, we're going to say no. So next up, we've got employment income, and we've already downloaded my T4 by using the CRA My Account. It's called Autofill My Return as well, and it's imported that information for us. So it's pulled in the T4. If you didn't have access to that, you can just manually enter in your T4 info. I could add another one manually here like that, but because it's already done, I'm not going to worry about it. I've got my T4. Same with the T5. I had a little bit of investment income, and this was automatically entered from downloading my information from CRA. So I'm happy with that. Again, I could add another one if I wanted. So we'll keep scrolling. And next up, I did say I had some donations. And in this case, let's say that my donations were to a charity. You can choose any of these. And we'll add a description. Let's say I donated to the SPCA in the amount of $250. I could enter in another donation. I could enter all of my donations at once if I had some backup. All you want to do is just make sure that you have your supporting documents in case CRA ever asks you to prove that you had these donation amounts. If you had unused donations from prior years, you could choose yes and enter that information down below. I'm going to say no. Did you donate any capital or depreciable property, so stuff instead of cash? You can say yes and enter the information for that. I'm going to say no because I didn't. That's pretty uncommon. And next up, we've got medical expenses. And so you can claim yours and your spouse's medical expenses, but only one of you can claim them. So in this case, I'm just going to pretend that I am claiming all of the medical expenses for my family, and I'll go ahead and do that. So whose medical expenses are these? Let's say they're mine. And who is this? This is me, not my child or another dependent, but it's me or my partner. So it's me. I'll add our medical expense description. Again, you can list these line by line. So you could say dental, you could add another one and say medical, and you could choose the type of expenses and enter the amounts. Or if you want, you can just summarize them all separately on a spreadsheet. As long as you have those supporting documents, you could just enter them in like this and say medical expenses. They are regular. They're not attendant care, adapted van, or moving for me. And for most people, that's going to be the case. And then just enter the total amount of medical expenses that you had. So let's just say I had $5,600, and I'll delete that other line, remove empty rows. Now, these are my expenses. Let's say that you want to also claim your spouse's expenses. Just click add another person. So we can say, who is this? This is my spouse, me or my partner, not a child or dependent. Same story, medical expenses. Type is regular, and amount is, let's just say it was $1,200, for example. So this is where it really helps if you're filing with your spouse to connect your returns, because it's going to help you to optimize who claims these medical expenses. Medical expenses are a bit funky in how they're claimed, and I've added a link in the description below that explains how they work and will help you to fully understand who should claim those medical expenses. But if you have your returns linked and you're filing them here, the software is going to optimize them for you. So that's great. Our next section we have is RRSP contributions and deductions. And the first thing we need to do is grab our notice of assessment from the prior year, and we need to enter our deduction limit. So I just clicked on deduction limit, and it's going to teach us a little bit about that. So it's just going to say how much we are actually eligible to contribute and deduct on our income. If you need to learn a bit more about RRSPs, I've also linked a video in the description below that talks all about those, including the lifelong learning plan and home buyers plan. So let's just say I had a bunch of RRSP contribution or deduction room there. And then in the year, I did have some RRSP contributions. And let's say for type, I made them in the full regular part of 2021. Again, this is a 2021 tax return. And the description, you can just enter where your RSP is held. So for me, it's Wealthsimple. Surprise, surprise. And let's just say the amount was 10 grand. You can add another. If you have another slip, go slip by slip and add them. So for example, let's say I contributed some in the beginning of 2022. For 2021, I can enter those in as well. So let's actually say I had some more. So this looks like I'm contributing $1,000 a month. That's great. I wish I was, but I'm not. And then we can add information about our lifelong learning and home buyers plan. Again, if you're not sure what that is, check that link in the description below, and it'll explain all about that. Really, you can just borrow money from your RSP for school or for buying a house. And you do have to pay it back, so that's what this is all about. I'm going to say no, I don't have a balance in either of those, so I don't need to either include it in my income or pay it back. If you have unused contributions from your prior year, let's say you contributed a bunch to an RSP last year, but you didn't earn enough income to use it all, You could say yes, and you can enter in that previous unclaimed amount. I'm going to say no and just carry on. So my RRSP deduction was $12,000, and I could change that if I didn't want to deduct that. I can go to my optimization section and choose to carry some of that forward. If I thought maybe I was going to earn a bunch more income next year, I might want to do that, but that's going to be pretty rare. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep scrolling, and I'm going to skip this where it's trying to sell me on another Wealthsimple account. Let's close that. And we're pretty much done. We've entered in all of the information for our simple tax return. Our next step is to review and optimize. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back and talk about self-employment income and how to enter that into your tax return. So if you don't have self-employment income, you are pretty much done. Let's just look at review and optimize. It's going to tell you if you have errors, potential warnings for missed things, or just some suggestions. I know my error here is that I haven't entered in my social insurance number, so I'm going to skip ahead and fix that. So I've gotten rid of that error, and now I can go through my warnings. First warning is just if you're filing a bunch of tax returns for a number of years, you should file them in sequential order. So it's going to say yes or no. Do you want to submit those first? I would say yes if I did, and I'd go ahead and file 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever it was. It's just a warning. I don't have this scenario. So don't worry. These are just warnings. It's just suggestions. It might catch an error or help you to file previous returns. But in this case, we know that doesn't exist. The next one is, are you sure you want to file your tax return without entering your net file access code? Again, it was just if you needed to contact CRA, it will help you to confirm your identity. I'm not going to bother. It's really not that big a deal. But if you do have your net file code, click go to and punch it in. It comes from your prior year's notice of assessment. If you've moved since you're filing this return, you can change your address before submitting your return. This is helpful because CRA might mail you a check and you want to make sure you get that. So make sure your address is up to date. I know mine is. Well, it's a fake address, but I'm not actually filing this. So I'm going to click X. And then it's telling me I might need to pay tax by installments because I had a balance owing. So we can learn more about that by clicking this. It just means I have to pay probably quarterly this year to actually kind of prepay my taxes. I already know all about this, so I'm going to click the X. Couple more suggestions here. I might be eligible in 2021 to have claimed employment expenses from working from home due to COVID-19. I can apply for that. I'm going to click the X. That doesn't apply to me. I think a lot of people maybe missed this digital news subscription, so they're trying to remind you over and over again. If you paid for digital news, you might get some money back. So that doesn't apply again. I'm going to click X. And really highly helpful if you do file with your spouse to link those returns. Again, just for demonstration, I'm not going to bother. So X again. All right, so I'm ready to submit my return. If I click this, it just scrolls me all the way to the bottom. But I kind of want to take a look first. I can see my credits and deductions. I had some donations to charities. I had some RRSP contributions. I can see I've got a big balance owing. That's unfortunate, but whatever. It's a good problem to have, truly. You can download a summary spreadsheet if you want to see everything in Excel. And you can see your contribution room for the next year. It's just a suggested or estimated amount. You'll want to wait until you see your notice of assessment before you fully contribute the full amount because it might not be accurate based on what we've entered, and we don't want to over contribute to our RRSP. Keep scrolling. So we could click on any of these and view a whole bunch more information in detail. It's really just exactly what your tax return will look like. I'm not going to show that. It's got my social insurance number on there, but have a look. It's just a tax return. You can expand those. And then lastly, we can submit this tax return. I would recommend first, save it as a PDF. It's handy to have on file, and then click submit. So I will do that just to see what that looks like. All we have to do is check this box and click submit return, and we can complete our tax return for the year. So it really doesn't take that long, especially if you have a My CRA account. I'm not going to do this. I've already filed this tax return. So let's hit cancel. Okay, if you don't have self-employment income, you can end here. Or if you do have self-employment income or you want to learn about it, keep watching. I'm going to go into detail about how to calculate your net self-employment income using our bookkeeping spreadsheet. And I'm also going to show you how to enter that information within Wealthsimple. So that's it for this section. Next up, you'll see me looking at a bookkeeping spreadsheet. So here we go. So our next step is to actually do our bookkeeping to enter in our self-employment income. If you've already done your bookkeeping for your self-employment stuff, skip ahead to that chapter in this video where we enter in the information. It's just the next chapter from here. So what I recommend is just go to Google, type in Avalon Accounting Bookkeeping Template, and find this video here. This video is going to explain exactly how to use our template in a really detailed version. I'll give you a real short version of it here, but this video will give you the link to everything, including the template and the how-to. And so if you're at this video, you can click this link or check the description in the video you're watching right now, and there'll be a link to this bookkeeping template in there as well. So grab the link. First step is to click File, and we're going to make a copy of this template. We can't actually edit this because we've protected it. So we definitely have to click File and either make a copy, or we can download it as an Excel file if you prefer that. So I'm just going to choose Make a Copy. Sure, copy of Avalon's free bookkeeping template is fine. I'll close the old one, and then we get to work and record our self-employment revenue and expenses for the year. So like I said, there's a more detailed version of this tutorial in that video, but let's quickly just enter in a bunch of information to show how it works. Start with your name, enter the year. If you charge GST or HST on your self-employment, click yes. It'll give you some information on how to enter your revenue and expenses below. If you worked from home during the year for your self-employment, click yes, and it's going to tell you to fill out the home office tab down at the bottom. From there, all we do is we enter in our transactions for the year. So we have a description, a date, an amount. If you had GST collected, we would enter GST in here, GST, HST, and then all we do is we categorize the transaction. So I'll give a couple examples. Let's say we had some sales, so you can have a summary for the year, or you can enter in every single line item as you go. There's like 1,000 lines you can use. I'm just going to do a summary here, 2021. Let's say my gross amount was $23,200, and let's say that no, I don't charge GST. So I'll click no. It's going to say enter the gross amount of transactions only. So sales and the gross amount. If you want to learn about the GST, HST side, check out that full video that's linked in the description to this one. Once you've had your sales recorded, you can record all your expenses. So I'm going to type a bunch and it's going to magically fast forward to me having completed those. So you can see I'm just summarizing things, but you can really copy and paste all of your business transactions from your bank or credit card account, paste them in here, and then just use the drop-down menus to actually enter the category that you want to put. So in this case, you could type it in, or you can choose from the drop-down menu. So I'm going to look for wages and benefits and choose that. And it does the same thing. So I've got all of my revenue and expenses for the year in my fictional bookkeeping. We can see the income statement shows up on the income statement tab, and we have the same information but summarized. So we have sales, advertising, all of the expenses that I just entered, regardless of whether you enter them on multiple lines or a single line, are going to show up on this income statement. One more thing, let's look at, say we bought some computer equipment too. So there's our computer equipment entered, and we need to choose one of these bottom categories, capital asset computer equipment, because this gets entered differently on your tax return than your revenue and expenses. This is a capital asset. If you're not sure what that is, check out the description and the link below where we explain all about what expenses you can deduct in your business and what capital versus current expenses are. Next up, we have this home office tab, and this is if we used our home office exclusively for our self-employment income. So from here, we enter in how big our home is. Let's just say I have a 700 square foot condo and my home office is 100 square feet. From there, we enter in our total annual costs for heat, electricity, insurance, maintenance, rent, etc. One thing to really key on is mortgage interest. So that's the interest portion of payments only, not the full payment. So let's say I paid $2,000 a month for my mortgage payment. Probably about $1,000 of that was interest based on my interest rate. So we need to get our annual mortgage statement and enter our interest amount paid for the year. So let's say it was $12,000 in interest. Heat was, I don't know, $450, electricity was $600, insurance was $1,200. That's all I'm going to say that I had, but I'm sure there's lots more. But what we can see is that it's prorated the total amount based on our home office size of 100 and our total house space of 700 square feet. So $2,000 is our eligible home office expenses that we can deduct. And if we go over into our income statement, we can now see all this information is nicely summarized. Sales, expenses, home office expense, and our capital asset purchase. And this is everything we need to complete our self-employment section of our tax return. So I'm going to jump back into Wealthsimple and we'll talk about how to enter this into the tax software. And there we go. We've got our tax return on the left and our income statement and self-employment information on the right. And all we need to do is add the self-employment or business income schedules on our tax return and enter this information in. To do that, we can go to build your return and we can use the search to type in self-employment or just type in self, and we're going to get business, professional, and commission income. So it's this T2125 that we need to fill in. I've clicked it and it's going to give us the start to our T2125. You can enter your business name, your GST, HST number if applicable, what kind of income you earn, so business, professional, or commission. If you're not sure, you can always click the question mark and it's going to give you a full explanation. Most cases I'm going to say are going to be business. If you have a separate address for your business, click yes, you can enter it in. If it's a partnership, click yes, you can enter the income split amount. And the fiscal period is typically going to be corresponding with the calendar year or your tax year. Let's just say I build websites on the side, so I would enter that in, and this is what it looks like when it's fully completed. We've got name of my business. I don't have a GST number. If you did, just enter it in. It's business income as opposed to professional or commission. No, I don't have my own, it doesn't have its own address. It's not a partnership, same fiscal period. I do web design and we're calling it graphic design according to these industry codes that you can search from this drop-down menu. Next up, we go to income and expenses, and this is going to look really familiar because we can see it all on the right-hand side. So our gross sales, we had 23,200. You can include things like returns if you have that, but we don't. Do you have any other business income? You could include it if you did. I will say no in this case. Cost of goods sold. So say you sold a product, you could include direct costs that go into that. I don't have any of those. I just have these operating expenses. So I'll scroll down and we can match these up from here to here. So advertising, meals and entertainment, all that stuff. You'll see what it looks like when I've got it completed. And what we're trying to do here is match as closely as possible the descriptions here to the accounts here. It doesn't matter if they're exact or not. So professional fees on this side is exactly the same as legal, accounting, and other professional fees here. We've just tried to summarize these in a shorter format. So once you've entered in your operating expenses, you can scroll down and look at total business expenses and just make sure that this number agrees to this number. We're not going to have the same net income amount yet because we have to enter our business use of home still down here. So our next steps are capital cost allowance and business use of home. CCA relates to capital assets that you've purchased, and that's why we have this section broken out. So what we do is we open up the capital cost allowance section and we say how we want to report our CCA. We can either report the totals only if we've already calculated them. In our spreadsheet, we have it, so we need to calculate the CCA. What you can do from here is enter in your capital asset purchases and sales, or additions and dispositions. Next, we go into type and we say an addition, it's equipment because we had computer equipment. If you had a building or land, you'd enter that. Or if you sold stuff, you'd use the disposition sections. So we're going to say addition of equipment, property details. We bought a computer. You could enter more details if you want, whatever's going to help you understand what capital asset you're talking about when you look at this later on. We then need to choose a class. And so if you click the link, it's going to help you to figure out which classes are available and what you have potentially used. So common classes, class 8 is going to be a lot of sort of general equipment. That's a really common one that you could click. Vehicles are typically in class 10 or 10.1. Computer equipment is typically in class 50. So let's click class 50 and have a look. It says what to include in here. General purpose electronic data processing equipment. It's a nice way of saying computer equipment. So that's the class I'm going to use for ours. So we'll scroll down and we'll choose class 50. The next tick mark here is this accelerated investment incentive property program that allows you to claim CCA faster than you used to be able to. You can read this and see if you're eligible. Yes, we have acquired this property after November 20th, and it doesn't qualify if a bunch of these things apply. In our case, yes, we bought it at the right date and it didn't fit any of those. So we're going to leave that as checked off. And our total cost was $2,500. So there we go. We have entered in our addition or our purchase of our computer, and it's going to calculate the CCA for us. So it's going to deduct $2,062.50 from our net income because we have this accelerated CCA program. We really expense most of that computer for the year. So that's our capital asset purchase complete. Next, we just need to enter in our business use of home expenses again, and we have that information in our home office tab, and I'll change the layout here a little bit so it's easier to view. It's really just exactly the same type of thing that we need to enter. We're going to say 700 for our home, our workspace was 100, our heat was 450, our electricity was 600, insurance was 1200. Okay, I know you get the point here, 12,000. So we've entered in exactly the same information. It's calculated exactly the same amount. And we now have our self-employment income information completely entered. Everything is done there. And so now that we have our business use of home in Wealthsimple and our CCA or asset purchases in Wealthsimple, my last step that I recommend is just make sure that the amounts on our spreadsheet agree to what we have in Wealthsimple. And to do that, all we have to do is take our net income on this side and subtract the CCA amount that was calculated here in Wealthsimple. So I'm going to just do a quick calculation. I'm going to call it net income. I'm just going to say equals net income minus the exact amount that we calculated in Wealthsimple, 2062.50. We have net income of 8406.79, which agrees to our net income of 8406.79. So there it is. We have completed our self-employment section and we're all done. All we have to do from here is review and optimize again, and we can go ahead and file our return. There we go. Everything looks good. Submit our tax return. Again, I recommend saving a PDF if you've made any changes. It's just really handy to have that information on hand. So there you have it. I hope you found this video useful, and now you can file your own tax return. If you like this video, please do click the like button and consider subscribing. The more viewers we have, the more people we can help, and that is the whole point of this channel. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.